Everyone, welcome to the Politico Speakeasy. Wow, what a crowd. Thank you guys so much for being here. We have an incredible lineup this afternoon, so thank you all for taking your seats, giving us your full attention, because we're going to kick off our next conversation right now. My colleague Jan Chinsky is our senior policy editor, and he is going to introduce you to our very special next guest. So let's give them a big round of applause. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Welcome to the panel. And I'd like to welcome my guest, Marcin Przydacz, who is the Secretary of State and Head of International Policy, the International Policy Bureau at the Chancellery of the President of Poland. And thanks very much for agreeing to appear.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yeah.
Jan, good afternoon too.
Great timing.
Yeah.
Poland's top of the news. I'd like to get your assessment.
We've been working on that. Actually.
Yeah, exactly. I'd like to get your assessment on what led to Donald Trump's unexpected decision, last night on Truth Social to send 5,000 troops to Poland.
Well, I wouldn't say that it was unexpected. It was very much expected. In Poland, and especially in the presidential palace. We've been working on that quite a while, and it was already somehow announced during the first visit of President Nawrocki to the White House on the 3rd of September. After this meeting, President Trump said that my troops, American troops, will stay in Poland, and there is even a chance that I will increase the number of those troops. So that was already the message that Poland, being in Central Europe, neighboring Ukraine, neighboring Russia, spending enough of GDP on its military budget, buying American equipment, will be somehow treated in a, I wouldn't say special way, but in a maybe a bit different way. I don't like to say it as a Polish diplomat or Polish expert politician, but they call us somehow moral allies. So if you want to be coherent as the American leader, if you call someone moral ally, you cannot bash him with negative decisions, right? So it was somehow expected to this decision to increase the number of troops. The only challenge was that there was a bit of chaotic communication with Pentagon during the visit of President Trump to China, but we clarified that, and the message is quite clear. There will be even more troops in Poland, and that's a personal decision of President Trump based on a very good relations with President of Poland. Well, that's what we read from the message.
But this was a week earlier. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth astonished Poland by saying that the planned rotation of 4,000 troops from an armored brigade who had already packed their equipment, some of them had already arrived in Poland, would be cancelled, wasn't going forward. So that astonished people that I talked to in Poland, I'm sure people that you talked to in Poland as well. It certainly surprised an awful lot of people in Congress that it was a very surprising way to treat a model ally. So how did that decision go down? Yeah. And this does seem unusual for a decision to be made last week. We're not sending 4,000 troops, and then suddenly you get a Truth Social post a week later saying, actually, we're sending 5,000 troops to Poland. How do you assess that?
That's why I said it was quite chaotic communication. I'm pretty sure that it was not in line with the decision of the White House. And then at the end of the day...
Pete Hegseth is freelancing defense policy?
No, I think it was a bit of misunderstanding of the expectation of the White House. I'm pretty sure that President Trump wanted, as he promised to his voters and to the American people, to work on the number of troops in Europe. And sometimes, I know because I also run some institutions, some officials, maybe generals, treated this as the decision to be implemented, and they found the easiest way to do that, right? So is there any brigade to be rotated? Yes, of course there is one.
You mean this is relation to the decision, Trump's earlier decision to pull troops out of Germany?
Yeah.
That this is the Polish one, was the echo of that, or related to that?
That was my understanding. So it's not. I don't want to criticize anybody. I think it was a bit of a misunderstanding within the Pentagon. but they are also in a process of reshaping their presence in Europe. So the final decisions are still ahead of us with regard to the number of troops, American troops in Europe. The anchor we see is the decision of the President of the United States, that for sure there won't be less but more troops, US Army in Poland, and this is the foundation as for now. Now we are starting our work with the goal to convince our American friends to change the status of those troops.
So no longer rotational but permanent.
Yeah, I do remember, I worked for President Duda, I do remember 2016 when there was a decision of rotational presence, and we are very happy with this because finally we crossed that line, somehow unwritten line about Central or Eastern Europe. So we were very happy with this, but it was a decade ago, no war in Ukraine and nor Russian build-up, and all what happened afterwards. So now what we need to do is to continue that kind of policy which was started with the deployment of 5th Corps headquarters in Poznań, which is on permanent basis. So the legal infrastructure is there. What we need to do is to fill it just with concrete decisions. Having said that, the fact that one brigade was stopped for a week or 2 or 3 does not change that much if the future will be better for the entire region, because we perceived that these troops are important not only for Poland, of course they are, but for the entire region, and I would even say for the entire continent, because it is the eastern flank which is now securing the stability of the entire European continent vis-à-vis the challenges coming from the threats coming from the east.
I was wondering if you could pull the curtain back a little bit on what you think prompted Trump's announcement yesterday. He couched it in terms of his personal relationship with President Nawrocki. I've talked to some NATO officials who said that the real driving factor was that Hegseth's announcement last week infuriated Congress, that it actually broke the law that Congress had set as to minimal staffing levels of US troops in Europe, that Trump is going to face a very tight vote in Congress on getting his $1.5 trillion Pentagon budget through, and that he just needed to calm the bipartisan anger in Congress, and this is what rolled it back. And he sort of couched it in terms of like, I like Nawrocki so much, that's why you're getting the soldiers, but there was a underlying domestic political dynamic that led to this change. What's your read on that?
Well, I think the answer in that kind of situation is also always a bit complex. It's not that easy that it's just one factor or the other. I'm pretty sure that he likes President Nawrocki. I mean, I've been there.
He endorsed him last year for the election.
I've been many times during the meetings of those two gentlemen, and I see the positive chemistry, the positive feeling. So I'm pretty sure that it played quite an important role, right? The second thing, he likes Poland. He likes Poland because Poland delivered whatever we promised as an ally. We delivered, and his image of Poland is only positive, right? These are those guys who fulfill 5% GDP. They buy a lot of equipment. Whatever, as an alliance, we need from Poland, they do deliver. So why should we punish them with negative consequences? The third, I think, President of the United States was not fully informed well during his visit in China about what's going on, about the communication of Pentagon. So after he came back, I think he just wanted to clarify and clean all this, what happened, right? So and that's why he decided to do it with a straight message, tweeting or posting it in his social media. I'm not an expert in the domestic politics of the United States, but of course, every politician, and especially in a year of midterm elections, has to look into the atmosphere on a hill, right? Yeah, of course, that's a constant in our foreign policy that we do make an outreach to the congressmen, right? To both the Senate and to the House, and to build a strong group of influential congressmen, which are constantly sending messages which are important for the American interest, but in line somehow with what we would love to see. So for sure, I mean, in both democratic cycles, but especially in the Republican, we do have a lot of friends, and we've made a use of those good contacts. But you have to be aware that it was not very difficult to convince them, because many of them understood what's going on, right? That something is wrong with this first message of Pentagon. But again, it's not about accusing anybody, because we also talked to Pentagon. We talked to Pete Hegseth, but mostly to Elbridge Colby, who is the somehow spiritus movens of that attitude.
It was a Polish government delegation which met with Colby a couple of days ago, right?
I'm referring to the National Security Advisor phone conversation with Elbridge Colby the other day, I think 2 or 3 days ago.
And I think the two deputy defense ministers also.
It was yesterday, I think.
Yeah.
But I haven't read the readout of the two gentlemen meeting him, but I know what was during the phone call, and there was already a positive message from Elbridge Colby. So it seemed that the White House already reacted somehow, sending the decision to Pentagon, to the Department of War, which was communicated then later on by President Trump.
Is there? This is sort of an unusual approach in NATO, which the whole idea of NATO is that you try to divorce defense policy from personal views. It's institutional, it's guaranteed, there's mechanics that function. And so what you've now shifted to, it appears, is that part of this deployment is based on the president's political and personal preferences. Is that a dangerous situation for Poland? Politics change, politicians change, and that you now have a deployment which is not institutional but is personal. And how is that less secure? To
be honest, I do not agree with you. I think it's always part of that approach and the part of other. So of course there is a strategy. There are some documents. There are generals, experts working on that. But at the end, there must be a political decision. And the political decision makers in the US system is the President of the United States. And that was exactly the same with President Obama in 2016. Do you think that the first decision of NATO summit and the deployment through the instrument of enhanced forward presence of American troops would be without the consent of President Obama or with his consent? He decided, right? Of course, he is provided with all the analysis, but at the end of the day, it's the American president who decides. So there is always very important to have a personal touch with the president of the US. And that was the continuous approach of Polish foreign service. In 2016, Obama, President Duda, and his relation. Then the first Trump, the number of US troops was upgraded again, also because of this personal contact. And then Biden paid the visit to Poland during his tenure twice. Despite the different political origins, right? Duda was rather conservative, Biden was Democrat, but they worked together, and we were capable to convince President Biden to send, at that time also, 5,000 troops just before the war, right? So of course, geopolitics is important, strategy, and the analysis of Pentagon and the State Department. But at the end of this process, there is always, like in a pyramid, the guy who says yes or no.
Now, how do you see this whole dynamic with Trump and the U.S. troops playing out in Polish politics? You took a bit of a poke at Prime Minister Tusk in your radio interview this morning, that he wasn't doing an active job of trying to entice the Americans to shift some of the troops from Germany. I think you said his beloved Germany about Tusk.
There is a lot of positive feelings towards Germany.
How does that play out?
Government, the current days. So it's not.
Do you blame that initial decision of Hegseth on Tusk?
No, if you read carefully what I said this morning, I said that kind of comments made by Prime Minister Tusk and some of other officials from the government, from the liberal side, does not help. That was my message. You know why? Because 2 weeks before this announcement of Hegseth, I've got a lot of messages from Pentagon, that kind of cycles, which are not very happy with the increasing numbers of troops, and they've been using this argument, showing to their bosses, you see, I mean, why you want more troops in Poland if there is such a negative attitude of that or that or that attitude. So there's this
so
also
the government wasn't pro-American enough in its.
It's not about, you know, it's not about being pro-American. It's about a bit of respect and not using maybe the wording which is not helpful, especially in the moment where the sensitive decisions being made. You've mentioned 5,000 troops from Germany and the decision of being redeployed, right, withdrawn from Germany. The spark for that, as we all know, was a public statement
of the policy in Iran. Yeah.
So it's not up to me to comment on that, whether it was good, he was right or not, but that was the result of that. So being or living in a country just next door to Ukraine, Belarus, and Russia, we need to be very vigilant, very careful, and if we want to send a proper message, even express criticism, we need to do it in a very, very smart way. Let me put it that way. Otherwise, some adversaries, I don't want to call enemies because we don't have probably enemies in the US administration, but people with a different attitude may use that kind of bad wording as an argument to fight our concepts. So that was my argument. And my message toward our government is, if you don't help, just shut your mouth and just don't say anything, because it does not help. As for now, we'll let the diplomacy be capable to work closely with those who are in favor of our position, and try not to offend our allies, because
so step carefully, basically.
You know, in politics, you say many things. I mean, if you want to offend, okay. But if you're a prime minister, foreign minister, president, you need to be quite careful and control your language. If you do not control your language, that means that you're not very capable to be at this position.
Great, thank you. These American troops are in Poland to deter Russia. That's the core goal. How would you assess Poland's defense readiness to face off Russia? Poland is on track to have the largest military in Europe. Are you broadly pleased with the country's defense posture, with the direction of defense spending, rearmament, that sort of thing?
Well, first of all, as for now, we see that Russia is very much, let me put it in a diplomatic way, preoccupied with what's going on in eastern Ukraine. They attacked Ukraine with a little success, although they promised to the entire world that they'll be super successful. It's not visible as for now, just opposite. It's Ukraine which is now attacking targets inside Russia. As for now, within the next weeks, I don't see the direct danger of a Russian incursion through the hard security measures. But of course, there is a lot below the threshold of Article 5. And we've seen that already, the hybrid operation on the Polish-Belarusian border, with this fake migration crisis, right?
We have the drones coming
drones,
over the Baltic countries as well.
Drones to Poland, even last days, balloons to Latvia and Lithuania, and we need to stand together, stay together with our Baltic allies and friends, and to solidify because they are small and not always capable to react properly. That's why we do have alliance, because stronger we are together. So as for now, I don't see imminent threat, within days or weeks that we'll be attacked. But we are I think thanks to Ukraine, we are getting more time to be prepared to finish the job, which should be already started in the 90s. Unfortunately, it is because of a kind of naivety of some intellectuals, politicians, experts, and diplomats in the 90s or early 2000s saying that, okay, let's profit from the peace dividend, there won't be any war, and Russia is just,
You're taking another poke at the government? Little
it's
poke.
not about poking my government. I could even poke other governments closer, or neighboring governments to Poland, building, critical infrastructure together with Russia, feeding them with money for gas and oil. That was a really bad idea, to be honest. That's
Business,
our
not
approach.
politics.
We are, with Russia, we are strongly opposing this notion of business as usual. With Putin's Russia, you cannot have business as usual because there are threats to the European security. And we were not prepared for that kind of interaction with Russia. So as for now, Ukraine paying huge price, doing its utmost to regain its sovereignty, full sovereignty on the territory, but they are giving also us the time to build up, to finance our military budget, but we need to see the solidarity among the European allies. It cannot be that Poland, Baltic states, Romania or Finland, so eastern flank countries, pay only the price and spending the military budget at the level of 5% of GDP. There shouldn't be free rides. Come on, I mean, it's not only on us, this threat. We would love to maybe also in Poland spend this money on something else, right? Education, healthcare. We do have a lot of possible places where we could invest. But we decided to invest in our army in order to defend ourselves, but also the entire continent, the entire community, Euro-Atlantic community. So my message towards other partners, it's really time to
Pay up.
to speed up. If there was any plan to do this Zeitenwende, now is the time to do it. And the message is not only towards the western neighbor of Poland, but also to our southern partners. They need to, and that would create much better atmosphere in our transatlantic relations, I'm pretty sure.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for agreeing to this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
After a very short break, I'll be back with General Aurelio Colagrande, who is the Deputy Supreme Allied Commander Transformation of NATO. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.